Okay. Roll Tide, everybody. Welcome in. So we're all going to play that we've got $1,000,000. Okay. Now I know Ed's got $1,000,000. You could burn Baton Rouge, Louisiana, on a wet day with Ed's money. I know that's for certain. But let's all pretend we had $1,000,000. What would you do with $1,000,000? Isabel, let's start with you. What would you do? And we're pretending we all got it.
Oh, first, I would probably buy myself something really nice.
Like
But
what?
then I would invest a lot of it.
You got to give us some details. What would you buy that was really, really nice?
I'd probably buy me a real nice car.
Okay. Like what kind? I mean, create a picture here.
I think I like this Lyric, the Cadillac Lyric. That's it's an electric car that Cadillac came out with.
Okay.
So I'd probably buy one of those.
I like it. Okay, good. All right, Shannon, talk to us. What would you do? What you going to spend your money on?
I love how Isabel is so sweet. She's like, "Oh, I don't know. I have a plan. I'm
She
going
got
to
a
quit my
plan.
job, take my house off, buy a car, go on vacation."
I like
In that
it.
order.
And where we're going to vacation? Where are we going?
Let's just throw a dart at a map, see what's around. I don't care. Wouldn't be here, so vacation.
I love it. I love it. Nick, what are we doing with your money? $1,000,000.
New car. Need one of them.
What kind, Nick? You know I'm not letting you off the.
I'd get myself a GMC Denali Duramax. And then I don't really need much more than that. I drive and, go around too much. So I could invest the rest or pay off the house or give the money to my mom for everything she's done. So,
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. I tell you, Nick, every time that you say something like this, your phone's going to be ringing, dude. I mean, if I had $1,000,000, first thing I would do is I would get hair implants to try to look like Nick's hair. That's what I would do. Since all of mine is falling off, I try to have your hair, Nick. I'm envious a little bit.
thank you.
All right, Isabella, what would you do for your $1,000,000?
Oh geez. I'm getting married this summer, so I'd probably put a lot of it towards, or like some of it towards that. And then I don't really need anything right now, so probably just invest it.
Isabella, that is awesome. You getting married. Someone once told me this. An old wise gentleman once told me that you can marry more money in 30 minutes than you can make in a lifetime. Isabella, is that why you're getting married?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
My
checking.
husband or my fiance, he's in the military, so I don't really know if he's gonna be. And he's my age, so he really does not have that much money. I think
Okay.
we'll have to see what the future brings us.
You're marrying totally for love. I love that.
Yes, totally for love.
Beth might have thought I had money because back in the day, y'all don't carry checkbooks, right? But back during the day, what you did is, now I'm not saying that, well, I am saying that I did this. What I would do is I have my checkbook everywhere, right? And so I would always, like, if I had $100 in my checking account, I would write $50,000 more. So it would show in my checkbook that I had $50,000, right? So anytime we'd go somewhere, I stopped at the store, got out or something, you know what Beth did. I know what you ladies do. Y'all are nosy. And you knew she was rummaging through my checkbook and seeing that Bobby had $48,000 in his account, which meant I was $2,000 overdrawn. And go, oh wow, I've got a bar, and that's what you do when you're a fat, plump little person growing up and you're trying to find a mate. You got to kind of trick them into thinking that you've got something. So I'm not saying that that's what I did to lure Beth into this 23, almost 24-year marriage, but that apparently is what I did. Ed, are you back from making your chicken salad sandwich yet? Apparently, Ed's not back. I was going to ask.
I am.
Ed, what would you do with $1,000,000? Now we know you've already got it, Ed, but what would you do?
Is it a million? Is it a million after tax dollars?
After tax dollars, yes, Ed.
Okay. I mean, I appreciate what everyone's saying,
Yeah.
And although I don't want to say specifically, I will maybe at the end. I think it's better when you incur, you can save money and set it aside and you're scratching and you're saving it. If anyone is fortunate enough to have a windfall, like a relative leaving you money, or you hit the lotto, which is a different thing because the money would be so gigantic, but investing it and then playing, I hate to say playing with your interest, but playing with your return, investing it and saying, you know what, I want that new car, that $50,000, $80,000 car. That thing's going to depreciate to zero. So I really don't like when people use their principal to buy things that depreciate. So the principal to me ought to be put into something that can generate a return, and then decide how you want to spend the return. Like someone might want to put, if they don't know anything and aren't aware of long-term investing, they might want to put it in a 1-year treasury bill, paying 4 point whatever it is. I'd have to look, 7 or so. You have 47,000 of interest is going to come in, almost 4,000 a month from that type of investment at that type of return. So maybe invest the money and then take $1,000 of that and target it to your car note. Now, Bobby, I know you hate car notes, but I'd rather someone blow the return off of some of their money than blow the principal off of it, because the principal's gone when it's gone. So I'll start off by saying that. And again, when I got on before and went this route with the whole compound interest thing, do your calculations and see how much that $80,000 car that you're buying now at age 29, it's going to depreciate, and you're going to be done with it in 7 or 8 years probably. What if you had taken that money and invested it, in about 35 years, when you hit age 65, your money's doubled 5 times if you get an average of a 10% return. It'll double every 7 years. So you'd have 5 doubling periods. So your 50 would go to 100, to 200, to 400, to 800, to 1.6 million. Like, calculate the future value of that car purchase that you're making now and decide if you really want to do it. You might still say yes. And for the people that said, oh, I want to take a vacation somewhere, like, yeah, go take your vacation, but maybe take it on your first or second interest payment check instead of off your principal. Like, let the dust settle. I come from the insurance and financial services business. I've seen so many people either get a million plus in an insurance settlement or an inheritance or whatever. And almost everyone goes through it. I mean, everyone thinks this money's a bottomless pit of money, and basically they blink and a year or two later, it's gone. So there's my rather long-winded answer. Invest it and use the return off the investment, some of it, for your play money. And
so what would be your play money, Ed? Though, give us your little guilty pleasure from your $1 million.
Well, I'm in my early 60s, so I don't really have a lot of
time left. Yes, Ed, you're on death's door.
Yeah. I don't really have a ton of wants and needs. I mean, like, I don't know, my wife would like to travel more, so I'd probably travel more and make her happy. I'd be happy just having more money in my Trader Nerd trading account. So, my needs are simple. I drive a Toyota RAV4. I'm happy with it. It's 4 years old. I don't plan on getting rid of it anytime soon. It's only got 30-something thousand miles on it. So, yeah. Are there other cars I would like? Sure. I'd like the Lucid electric SUV. I think it was Isabel who was saying she wanted to buy the Cadillac Lyra or Lyric or whatever it is. They're electric. Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued with that. So, something like that would be fun. And, at my point, with any luck, I'm basically spending my kids' inheritance, not my future. So, it's a different situation. If someone plopped an extra $1 million on my lap right now, it would make a life. I could blow it all and not worry about it. But for someone who's wanting to make that the foundation of their future, the less you blow now and the more you save, the happier you're going to be. And then look at it this way. You're making X amount of money working, and you're trying to save so that someday you can make, have $1 million or $2 million or maybe 5 or 6 at you guys' age down the road, because we got to count inflation and that kind of thing. So if you're saving $400 a month and you're struggling, and here comes the million, well, invest the million, and all of a sudden you got the 400 a month that you can now dedicate to a new car note, and you really haven't hurt yourself too much. And I don't want to be a party pooper or sound like someone's daddy, but that is the conservative thing to do. Invest as much of it.
You sound like
you
my
can.
daddy, and you kind of look like my daddy. I'm just going to say it. So today, y'all, thanks, Ed, for sharing that. So today, what I want to talk to you guys about is this. Real estate. So as an investment. So we always hear the normal things about real estate are that they're not making any more of it. That's true. There is a fixed supply of real estate. They're not creating any more unless you consider what China is doing out in the seas. They're creating their little islands out there. So I guess you could say you can create to some extent real estate. But the other thing that we hear is real estate is all about what? We've heard it before. Do you know, Isabel? There's three things that real estate is. It's blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm talking about? Nick, you probably know.
Location,
right? Where you buy the real estate is really, really important. Now, I want to say this. I no longer invest in real estate because I hated dealing with people. Okay. At the same time, real estate is a great investment. Now, if you, ladies and gentlemen, want to invest in real estate, then you don't like people like I do. You're like, me, and you don't want to be around people. You don't want to deal with tenants and, contractors and, repair people and all of that. You can still invest in real estate and be hands off through an instrument called a real estate investment trust. So a real estate investment trust, or a REIT, REIT, are things that are out there, and there's a lot of them that trade like SPY, like the S&P 500 that are out there that you can buy and sell. So we won't talk much about those, but there are ways for you to invest in real estate in ETFs. One of the ones that I used to enjoy a lot was O was a real estate ETF. Not sure it's labeled a REIT at all, but it certainly was involved in real estate. So there's REITs out there that you can buy and be hands off in real estate. So as little as you having enough to buy a share of a REIT, you can get exposure to real estate. So that's really, really cool. But what I want to talk mostly about is something that I have a lot of expertise in, and that is buying and owning residential real estate. Now, the first real estate that you should buy, of course, would be your primary residence. And the reason that you buy your primary residence is, I say you buy your primary residence, but don't buy your house until you're ready to buy your home. Now, what does that mean? I want you to have a down payment. I want you to have a considerable down payment, primarily because I don't want you to have to buy insurance, the PMI, the purchase money insurance that they require if you don't put 20% down when you're buying a house. You're a bigger risk. So what they require you to do is to pay this little insurance premium on your mortgage payment. So in addition to your interest and your principal and your taxes and insurance that oftentimes they'll have you to escrow and place in a monthly escrow, they'll add this little purchase money insurance, or I think with FHA, with HUD financing, it's called mortgage interest premium or something of that nature, MIP, but it's PMI. So I don't want you to have to pay that if you can't. So to avoid that, you have a 20% down payment, which is good. So I'm not one of these that says, oh, why rent something? You're throwing your money away in rent. I don't necessarily believe that. I am fine with that. I could buy a condo at the beach. And every now and then, Beth and I will think, Oh, Bob, she'll look at me with those eyes and she'll flash them. Bobby, why don't we get a condo at the beach? We'll get one at Myrtle Beach because we like going to Myrtle Beach better than Panama City Beach. And she'll flash her little eyes and we'll think about it. And I'll think about it and I'll start looking at it. And I go, why would we want the ownership hassle of owning something at the beach? Because we probably rent it out the rest of the time. And who would we rent it to? What if they destroy our place? What if it's so much easier for me and nicer for me to go, hey, let's just rent a nice place when we go on vacation. So that's what I like doing. I don't want the ownership hassle. I don't want the hassle of dealing with a management company. I don't want to mess with all the people and the tenants and tearing my property up and all that. I just don't want to deal with it. I'm at a point in my life where I just don't want to fool with it. Now, some of you in this class have indicated that that's where your fortune lies and that you want to be real estate investors. And I think that is fabulous. Now, we can talk about commercial real estate, you owning office buildings, you owning all that, but I don't have experience in that. And that's not something that I actively engaged in, but I have bought hundreds and sold hundreds of properties in residential. And that's kind of where we're going to talk about today. So there's kind of two things that you can do with residential real estate. And one of them is the slow way to wealth, and the other one is a job. One of them is a slow way to accumulate wealth. It is the way that I would encourage you to go. And the other one is a job. The first job that I'm going to bring out to you is this. It is buying properties that are in need of repair, repairing those properties. It's kind of like putting lipstick on a pig and then selling your pig. And that is something that we used to call flipping. We would flip real estate. So to find these distressed properties, my business partner and I would go to advertise the foreclosures here in Georgia. Every Thursday, they would advertise them. They have advertised a foreclosure for 4 consecutive weeks. We had to go to the courthouse. We would look at the liens on the property. We'd go look at the property. We do all that. And we got some great deals because the first Tuesday, I think it's been so long since I bought a foreclosure. I think the first Tuesday of every month in the state of Georgia is when the foreclosure sales are offered. And they go on the front steps of the courthouse and they will cry the foreclosure. And cry means that they will announce the foreclosure. They read the entire ad. So you'd have to check and see how it's done in your county and in your state or your place around the world for our international students. But at some point, if someone does not pay the mortgage on that house or on that property or on that land, they're going to foreclose. Now, usually they'll give them every chance in the book to be able to do it. And it may be that they're 6 to 9 to 12 months or more behind before the foreclosure actually happens. But my friend and I would go out and we would bid on these foreclosure properties. Now, I'm going to tell you an interesting story about one that we got. There was a dubious real estate attorney who is no longer living, and I did not cast a tear when this man went to his eternal reward because he was an evil guy. But he would come out and he would look to see if anyone was on the courthouse steps before he would cry it, because his client didn't want anybody to bid on the property. His client wanted to retain the property, have it back, and then sell it to someone else. So if we came to the foreclosure steps, we were in opposition to his client, because the opening bid at a foreclosure sale is the lender to whom the money has not been paid. So they issue the first bid, and then it's bid up from there. So in Carrollton, Georgia, the foreclosure sales were on the courthouse step right across from the First Baptist Church of Carrollton, Georgia. So we saw, oh no, it's this stupid attorney. I can't stand him that was representing the lender. It's all that's in the foreclosure notice in the legal newspaper of the county. So what we did is my friend and I dressed up in camouflage and we hunkered down in the bushes in front of the First Baptist Church, Carrollton, Georgia, and hid behind the bushes until this guy came out and started crying the foreclosure. You should have seen the look on his face when we came out of the bushes and startled him at the courthouse steps. And he just lifted his head up in the air like he was so great and all this anyway. And his client actually bid against us in the foreclosure, to which I told him, I said, sir, I would have you know that I am documenting this foreclosure. I am documenting the bid, and any amount above the minimum bid must go to the homeowner, not to the lender. And he just, and I bet the homeowner never got the excess that was bid over the foreclosure amount, but we did bid him up some. But the greatest property that we bought probably was 422 Adamson Avenue. It's funny how I remember all these addresses. And in Georgia, at the foreclosure steps, you had to have cash or a certified check. You couldn't say, hey, I'm going to the bank to get the money. I'll be right back. You had to have cash or a certified bank check from a bank. So what we would do is if we were bidding 100,000 and that was our maximum bid, we would maybe get a $50,000 check, a $20,000 check, and several $10,000 checks. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if I had won the bid at $90,000 and you hand an attorney $100,000 check, do you have any idea how long it takes to get $10,000 worth of change from an attorney? Nick, I know you want to be an attorney one day. Get change to your people quick, because otherwise I was having to sit there and wait on $10,000 to come out. So I learned the hard way that I had to have incremental amounts of cash available in order to burn. So that's the way it was. It wasn't that you got financing or anything. So we would buy the property. Okay. In the state of Georgia, there was no period of redemption. Now, and a period of redemption is a period in which the time that the homeowner could come back and say, oh, sorry, I didn't know y'all foreclosed. I got the money now. Some way I've got the money and I'm going to bring the loan current. In that case, the bidder is screwed, and you may or may not get interest back on your money. Probably not, but you would get your money back eventually. In the state of Alabama, there is a 1-year right of redemption that the homeowner has. Can you imagine that? I could buy the house at a foreclosure auction, buy it from the bank. It'd be my house. I could fix it up. I could sell it, but I had to sell it subject to the previous owner's right of redemption. They could come in at any point during the year, redeem the property, bring the default amount current, and get their property back. Unbelievable. Georgia is a very friendly state to the lender and to the landlord. Alabama is a horrible state for lenders, and it's a horrible state to be a landlord. Just want you to know, for those of you in Alabama. Isabel, I ain't got a clue what Alaska's doing. So if you ever are interested in buying foreclosures at the steps, then good luck to you. Look up all those things. Okay, that's not something you're interested in. Okay. Now, another way that a friend and I made money in real estate is we would buy them before foreclosure. We would buy, you hear of somebody that, or maybe it's advertised in the paper that they're behind on their mortgage. Sometimes we would go buy it from the owner direct and bring their mortgage current. So sometimes we did that. Another thing that we do is we drive around neighborhoods, and if you see something that looks vacant and empty and needs cosmetic repairs, we would find out who owned the property. We would look at the deed and map. In Georgia, it's awesome too. In our county, you can just pull up the address. So if you've got the address, you can go to carrolltax.com. You can look up the owner. You can look up, when they bought it, how much was on. So you can find the owner. So that's one way. It's so funny in Atlanta, you always see these billboards. I buy houses. Have y'all seen the We Buy Houses people? They'll put the billboards out there. We buy houses. So, there's all kinds of people that buy houses and do that kind of thing. But what we would do is you can also buy it after the foreclosure. This is called a REO, real estate owned. And this means that there was no successful bidder at the foreclosure auction and that the lender took back the property. And generally, the lender will then advertise the property for sale with a real estate agent or real estate broker. And then if you've got a friend in real estate, then that's how to do it. Who here is in real estate, by the way? Is any of you guys saying real estate's my avenue? That's where I'm going to get rich? Shannon doesn't look like she's a real estate person. Shannon, you a real estate person? Is this where your future fortune lies?
No, I got out of the mortgage industry right before the housing crash.
Oh, wow.
So telling how old I am.
Okay. Well, that's good. You're still young. But if you're if you want real estate, I'm a real estate broker, right? Because I got tired of leaving commission on the table. So I became a real estate broker. But, for the most part, find you a real estate broker friend that can help bring you deals if this is where your future fortune comes. Then we would take the property after we got it. There was no right of redemption. And there's another interesting thing I need to tell you about the foreclosure process in Georgia. So all junior mortgages, which means the ones that were recorded after the one that was foreclosing, were wiped off the property. So let's say that there was a mortgage on the property, a first mortgage that was recorded in the year 2000. And let's say that they got a second mortgage or line of credit in 2001. If the mortgage that foreclosed was the 2000 mortgage, guess what happened to the 2001 mortgage? It was gone, wiped off the property, gone. So, ladies and gentlemen, we found a property where an owner had bought the property and refinanced, right? And the problem was that the second mortgage it was a strange situation to where it had a first mortgage of $14,000 on it. They refinanced for $40,000. And the refinance, that mortgage company never paid off the first mortgage of $13,000. And guess who was foreclosing? The $13,000 mortgage. They never got paid. And they said, screw it, we're foreclosing. So this house at 422 Adamson Avenue in Carrollton, Georgia, had a first mortgage of $13,000, a second mortgage of $40,000. The second mortgage was supposed to pay off the first mortgage. They never did. And the first mortgage foreclosed. So that entire $14,000 or $40,000 second mortgage at foreclosure was wiped off of the property. Somebody should have got fired because somebody didn't do what was right and pay off the first mortgage. Ladies and gentlemen, I felt bad about it for the homeowner, but they had notice after notice after notice. They have to have notices sent to them, certified mail, the whole nine thing. They never took care of this. They never said, hey, what happened? And little old Bobby Gaines happened to be hiding around the corner, and I bought that house for $13,000. unbelievable. We had the thing sold in 2 weeks to a police officer from Carrollton, Georgia. Isabel, were you going to ask something?
I was gonna ask, do you still have it?
No, we sold it. We flipped it. We flipped it. Don't flip houses. Do you know why you don't flip houses? It's a job. But the second thing is, if you do it under a year, that is treated as ordinary income. You have done nothing but create yourself a job. You do not get to participate in the long-term appreciation of real estate. All you've done is created a job. Now, it was a nice job because we bought it for $13,000 and I think we sold it for $40,000 in 2 weeks cash. I mean, that's pretty good money, right? But we had to turn that in as taxes, as ordinary income. So we didn't have to worry about that at all. Well, we did have to worry about the taxes. So here's what we should have done. And here's what we did do on several properties. So we would buy the property and then we would fix it up and then rent it out. Those were the properties that we did the best on. Now, I'm going to go through a list of kind of how we did it. All right. So if you ever want to, how many of y'all ever think you would be a landlord? And I know I've got to do this class to everybody and we need to talk about, okay, so let me tell you the secret of being a good landlord. Isabel, you're going to be a landlord. Never buy a 1-bedroom or 2-bedroom house. Always buy a 3-bedroom house if you're going to be a residential landlord. Why?
So you get families in there.
You are increasing the tenant pool that you can come, right? It is difficult. I found that it was difficult to rent a 1-roomer, a 1-bedroom. It's difficult because families are looking for something and they may not the price of your 2-bedroom. But when you've got a family that needs 4 bedrooms moving into your 2 bedrooms, they're just going to destroy it anyway. There's just not enough room. And 3 bedrooms were just right. And if possible, how many bathrooms did I want, Isabel? You know, I wanted 2 baths, right? If I had my druthers, I would always have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. Also, if I had my druthers, I always wanted to get a brick house to put into my rental program. Why? Now, believe it or not, those, I don't know what it was, were harder for the tenant to destroy than some of my wood-sided or vinyl siding houses. I don't know what it was, but they could always destroy something that was wood or vinyl. They had a lot of trouble destroying something that was brick. So I love my little 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses. So I'm going to pick on Isabel now since she's going to be the landlord. If you are the landlord of residential property, always paint the same color everywhere. Always use the same type of carpet everywhere. Find your carpet, right? And find a carpet that shows stains well or have hardwood flooring or something, right? You've got to figure out a carpet that if you got carpeting in the house, it doesn't show stains. So you wouldn't want a white shag carpet or anything like that. You want something that doesn't show stains. And you want paint that you can use in all of your homes. So that way, if you have your handyman or handywoman touching up paint, they don't have to go get a new gallon of paint every time. They may get dusty gray, and everywhere you go, you get your dusty gray from Home Depot, and you know the color scheme of it and everything, and you paint every room dusty gray. So when you send your handyman over to touch up paint, or you need a new room painted, you've already got the paint somewhere, somehow for the house. Ed says vinyl laminate strips are awesome flooring, much more durable than anything else. Yeah, that's good. So find something that's durable, paint everything the same color. I want every room to be the same color. I'm not going in and going, oh, we're going to do pink here and we're going to do mauve here. We want some, like you've got painted in your house behind you, Isabel. Look at your paint behind you. Doesn't that look great?
All white. Everything is white.
That would look great in every house. Look behind Nick. Nick's even going into the corner now, looking behind him. Look, see that color, kind of grayish tan or whatever? That looks great. Look behind Shannon. That color, beautiful, right? Look at that green screen behind me. No. Okay? You want a nice neutral color that'll go anything that your tenants have. Okay, let's keep going. If possible, and they live in the same city, ride by the place that tenant lives now. If you were to go by my house today, you say, there ain't no way I'm renting to Bobby Gaines. He's letting the whole place go to hell. Right? You say, I'm not renting to Bobby. That's fine. Go by and see how it looks on the outside. How are they maintaining the property that they're listing? Now, if that's in an apartment, you can't do that. But if they're renting a house somewhere else, drive by and look at it. Because if they're not treating their place that they're currently at good, they're not going to treat your place well. And I hate to tell you that previous landlords lie, but previous landlords lie because they may be wanting to get them out of their property. So when they call you and say, hey, yeah, how's Mr. Beavis doing? Is he great? Oh, yeah, he's great. Because I want to get rid of Mr. Beavis. Yeah, you're going to love him. And hang up the phone and go, sucker, I'm done with him. Right? And now Mr. Beavis is going to come and destroy your place. So don't trust the landlord. Always get references for your tenant. Make sure that you call the references. Make sure that they have steady employment and a source of income. Trust me. Don't assume that he's got a job or she's got a job. You want to see what kind of job they got. You want to know how much that they're making. You want to know how long they've been on the job. If these people float in between jobs, what are they going to do with the houses? They are going to float between houses like they float between jobs. Trust me on that. Okay?
How do
Right.
you get away from like the discrimination part of it though? Like if you don't want to rent to that person, how would you like decline that application without being in that discrimination?
Oh, I discriminate every day when I was a landlord. Not
I-
on race, color, religion, sex, national origin, or creed, but I do discriminate on, hey, you don't have job history, you don't have good references. I can legally discriminate against that person every day. Yeah.
Okay.
So I didn't care about anything else, but I did care about their ability to be stable. Ed, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I love a lot of what you're saying, Bobby, and it's all pretty much spot on. I just have a few other thoughts I've posted in I am an active landlord. For you guys that remember me, I have an insurance and investment background, mortgage background. I became a landlord after the real estate blow up in 2008 and 2009. I've been edging out of it, but still have quite a few. So a lot of what Bobby's saying is spot on accurate. As far as renters themselves, and I didn't do this early on, and I don't even now pull credit a lot of the time for my renters. I do a thorough application, and then I do call employers. And if they're not at a current job for a certain length of time, I'll call the prior employer. And if they only give me one employer and I'm not happy with, you've been there for 4 months or 3 months, here's the way to protect yourself as a landlord against discrimination. You make them, everyone has to fill out an application. And then you look over your applications and you make notes on them. Let's say you get 4 applications on one property. You look over them, and of course, you're going to have some subjective decision-making going on there. Someone might have impressed you with the way they greeted you, or someone might have turned you off with how cold and flippant they were, or whatever. I think the best way to protect yourself is to take that application every time and then make notes on it. This person didn't strike me as someone that would take care of my property well because they didn't dress neatly. Or document your decision making and then throw all those applications into a stack in your closet on the floor somewhere and save those for a certain amount of time, because people, I guess depending on the jurisdiction, have at least a year to come back and bite you on these kinds of things. So good documentation up front is always good. And for you people that are in professions, if you're a money manager, or you're a realtor, or I think Shannon said she used to be in the real estate business. All these things are professions where you really need to document yourself and keep and retain good records, because you don't know when a lawsuit's going to come out of left field. More commentary in that regard. I've started putting on my applications recently, do you own a vacuum cleaner? Now that sounds like a joke, okay? But I've been a landlord for 13 years now, and I've learned after like 6 or 7, not everyone, and I go into my units every 3 months and do pest control and change the AC filter myself. If someone has a pet, sometimes I'll supply them with an AC filter. And when they send me rent on the first, I'm like, change the AC filter that I left, if you would. And they're usually very happy I'm providing the filter. Ultimately, I cannot rely on my renters to change the AC filters properly. And at first I did, and I'd have units that would blow up on me because they weren't clean. It wasn't being maintained. And even though I had them serviced every year, they were dying too quick. So I quickly decided I was going to go in every 3 months and change the AC filter myself. I get these medium grade AC filters that last for 90 days, and go in and do that myself. I spray pest control, unless my renter asks me not to. Sometimes renters are like, I don't like pest control, or I'm allergic, or whatever. Fine, I document that in the file, because if 8 months later they have a massive roach problem, it's on them because they didn't let me do the pest control and they didn't handle it themselves, and I have all this documented. So I can hit their deposit on the way out for my remediation costs. So a lot of this stuff is documentation on the front end and just keeping your eyes and ears and brain in gear. So as stuff happens, you see what's happening and you bake it into your lease. I'm in Louisiana. I use a standard Louisiana lease, and I've added a whole page of things into the lease. A lot of what I'm talking about here, things that I expect them to do. I expect them to change the air conditioner filter if I've left it behind. However, if I don't, I will change it. I expect them to keep the place neat. I will let them know a week ahead of time when I'm coming to do the maintenance. And I text them and I ask for a confirmation, and I send a repeat if they don't confirm. I don't want to catch anyone off guard. I don't want them to catch, their sloppiness or their paraphernalia sitting out or whatever the situation might be. I warn them. I give them every opportunity to do the right thing. So if I go in and there's a bunch of fast food cups everywhere and all their laundry's all over the place, well, if that's what it looks like when I've warned them, what does it look like when I haven't warned them? And then I kind of tend to set those people to not renew. So just some stuff I'm putting out there. 100%, not 99, 100% of the time, do a job verification. If they're going to lie about anything, it's going to be about their job situation. And you do not, and I've trusted people for the first few years. I trusted people and it worked out well. And I have
Trust no one. Listen to me, trust no
Yeah.
one.
You can't, because oftentimes people are maybe in a desperate situation. They have to lie, or maybe it's just their nature, whatever. Do that job verification. It's basically your best protection as far as I can tell. Prior landlords, as Bobby said, and as I've commented here, prior landlords have a liability issue if they diss their current renter to you. And I have had bad renters that left, and I've gotten a call and I've said, well, that renter was pretty average for me. Like, I am not going to say my renter sucked, because that landlord might say, well, your prior landlord said y'all suck. And he did. And I'm asking for a problem. I'm asking for blowback. So
Here's what you can say, and just do this. If given the opportunity, I would rent to them again. If given the opportunity, I would not rent to them again, and then shut up.
I like that, Bobby. I'm going to make a note of that.
That's all you do. That's all you're required to do.
And then the other thing I want to tell you, because a lot of people, landlords are different. Like you have a 1-unit landlord who may not know what they're doing, and they might have a manager renting it. And that manager is going to like run credit and make sure everything's squeaky clean and they have a great credit score, because that manager kind of doesn't care if it takes 3 or 4 months to rent your property. They don't want trouble. So they're going to be extra careful. I tend to, and I self-manage. So when I have rental prospects and I find someone who's filled out an app, and I always meet them face to face, and I have a good, and yes, if someone is polite and friendly, that does carry a weight versus someone that acts like they want to rent my unit. If I'm showing my unit and someone's like, forget it. I don't care what the details are. If they're not at least somewhat excited about the prospect of living at the place, I don't want them in there, which is very subjective. But again, from experience, and then, so if you have someone that maybe has only been at their job for 3 months, or maybe someone that makes $3,000 and your rent payment's $1,200, and you're a little worried that they can cover it, and they're like, I can cover it, I can cover it, I can definitely cover it. Don't worry, I promise. This last thing I typed in: if you have a prospect that has a good job and bad credit, or you don't like their job history or anything else, but you like them, but the money part's scaring you, get first month and last month and a full month credit. That way you're collecting their first month. The last month, they don't have to pay you anything, and you've got a full month deposit if they screw your place up. So that's a way that you can almost guarantee yourself safety. Now, I'm in Louisiana, and we have parishes here in Louisiana. We don't have counties. And my parish is extremely landlord friendly. Like I could even evict someone during COVID, if you can believe that. I didn't have to, but I could have. And the parish right next to me, which is Orleans, which is New Orleans, it's impossible to evict anyone there. It's amazing. You've got to get the rules for the jurisdiction you're in and understand the rules you're going to be playing by in the property you own, because that can really mess you up if you get in a county that is not somewhat landlord friendly. And I mean, by somewhat, and it's the sheriff's office that does all this, or the justice of the peace here. The sheriff's office does all the foreclosure activity, the notices, the listings, the postings, and then the actual auction. A justice of the peace here is the person who you would go to have someone evicted. And you can find out who those people are. You can go find out, is it the justice of the peace? Who is it in your jurisdiction that handles evictions? And go talk to them and say, hey, I'm thinking about becoming a landlord. How do evictions work? And that's a public servant you're talking to. They should be more than happy and maybe even excited to explain that to you on the front end, instead of them having to answer it all day like they do on the people on the tail end, like, oh, how do I evict? Like you're dealing with the problem proactively, and I think they're okay with that. I know here for foreclosure sales, if you call them the day or more before the foreclosure sale on the phone, or even better, go visit, but on the phone is fine. They are very happy to go over the information. Like if you have a prospect case, and you're like, hey, I'm looking at this mortgage certificate. It looks like there's not a lot. How does it look now? And they're like, yeah, all we have is the first mortgage holder. Well, you know that you don't have any, as far as their records show, you don't have any hidden issues like an IRS lien that might follow the property. Like you buy the property, but it was an IRS lien and that goes with the foreclosure sale. It doesn't get wiped out. There's all kind of little gotchas that you have to be very aware of. And my final thing, which is one more thing, look at the insurance in the area you're in. Is rental insurance coverage available and affordable? Is the property in a mandatory flood zone? And if it is, go price your flood insurance, because let me tell you, flood insurance is a nightmare, and it is going to only become a larger nightmare as time goes on. It's a government funded thing. It never is profitable. The government does not set aside money in years where it's good. They just spend it. And so you have these crises that come up and they end up needing government bailing out a lot of the time. And I am in an optional flood zone where I live. My properties are not in a mandatory flood zone. The property where I own was not mandatory when I bought it, and it's still not mandatory, but it's recommended where I am. So I get it. I purchase it. And here, the flood insurance situation is so screwed up. And remember, it's a federal program. It's so screwed up that if someone came and bought my house now, the flood insurance would probably be 3 times what I pay. So new people are paying a much higher rate. The existing people were, if they had a policy, they're grandfathered into their rate years ago, and they only have a 10% only, a 10% max premium boost on their flood insurance. So I know if it's going up 10% a year, every 7 years, my flood insurance is going to double. At some point, this house may become unsellable because the flood insurance is so crazy. This may sound like the paranoid ravings of a madman, but I'm just telling you, flood insurance going forward is one of these things that could easily blow up on the government and become a huge problem for everyone, but especially landlords, because landlord coverage isn't as cheap or easy to get. So there's different dynamics. There's also private insurance, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the insurance thing, know the area you're buying into. Is home and renter's insurance available on the building? How much is liability, which is probably not a big issue, and flood insurance. It's huge. The last thing I want to say, and it's really an umbrella that everything, in my opinion, everything that I've said and everything that Bobby has said comes under this. And that is, and I've found this directly, and I see it in people for the last 14 years, how long I've been doing this. The people who, the price at which you acquire your property is directly correlated to the pleasure you will get out of owning it. And by that, I mean, if you buy a property cheap enough and you go rent it out and you're like, oh, I bought this $80,000 property and I know right off the bat, it's worth 120. You're going to have a lot more patience dealing with your renter, knowing that you just acquired $40,000 worth of what I call phantom equity. It's real equity in your property, but it's not any equity you intend to do anything with. But through good fortune and putting yourself in the way of luck by trying to get a distressed property, you've actually acquired this phantom equity. And again, I own in most of my properties are in condo communities. And I bought mine at the bust cycle. And there were people that bought these properties years before at much, much higher prices. And they were miserable. They couldn't get out of the house. They still owed more than they wanted, yada, yada. I'm a happy camper because I buy mine and I instantly I bought some properties in the 60s and they were instantly worth in the low 80s. It's and that's based on what other things are selling for in the community. And those went up nicely in the 14 years I've owned them. So yes, I have stress. If you get a call in the middle of the night, my toilet's overflowing. Yes, it's stressful. And I've had 50 different things happen to these properties. I've owned as many as 17 at one time. I own 10 right now. And it comes in waves. You know, you think things are quieting down. At the beginning, I used to strive for peace and no problems. And then I realized it's never going to happen. And then I realized this is like a business.
If you guys want to have a adventurous life, become a real estate investor. You will have adventures that no one has ever seen. I mean, you can't imagine all of the different scenarios you're going to see in your life.
And I've had a bunch of properties. One of them, my wife and I have said, you ought to write a book on those renters.
You could
just write a chapter on each one, and I'll put the book together. It's like this unit was plagued. I had like 8 renters in it over a 10-year period. My very first renter in this place, I bought it at foreclosure, fixed it up, put someone in it. They moved in, and less than 3 weeks later, they moved out. They just disappeared. And I mean, like, it was just one crazy thing after another in that particular unit. But again, the price you acquire a property for is, you're not going to be happy if you buy $100,000 property for $90,000 and there's a dip in the real estate market and everything around you selling for $80,000. You're not going to be as happy as if you bought it and it's higher than your entry price. It's a source of patience when you know you are putting your sweat equity into it, and you're definitely getting a return out of it because you already have some equity in it. The other thing, so acquisition price is equals happiness in ownership. I mean, all these other things play out, but that part I find is huge. I'll stop, Bobby. I don't want to dominate your whole class.
Well, we'll talk more about real estate a little bit next time. Anyone got any questions about it before we leave? Isabel, especially you. You're thinking about being a landlord one day. Anything that you would need covered?
I don't think so. I kind of dabbled in it when we left Texas because we didn't sell our house. We rented it a few years. But I got scared during COVID. And they had 2 other kids that were in college. So they asked if they could break their lease early and move out. And we granted them that because I didn't want them to be all living in that smaller house with their kids coming back from college. So we ended up selling the house, which I kick myself now, but I was so nervous with COVID happening that we wouldn't be able to get a renter back in it. And then we would be having to pay, our rent up here and the mortgage down there in Texas. So we ended up selling it. I made a little bit of money off of it, but not near as what I would have if I would have held it today.
Yeah, there's always those properties I go, God, I wish I still owned that. And then there's some I drive by and say, thank you, Jesus, it's gone. Woo, hallelujah. All right, great session, y'all. We'll cover a little bit more about real estate next time. Isabel, if you will remind me next week to go work smarter, not harder. That'll tell me exactly where we need to pick up. Work smarter, not harder. Okay?
Okay.
All right, guys. Great. Y'all have a good week. I will see y'all Tuesday.